Tom, are you surprised at that they're going to be scrolling people's pages?
They've been doing that for a while. They have to because there's so much fraud going on in all these countries that they have to double check somehow, and that's usually the best way to do it.
All right, so guys, don't be reckless. Freedom of speech here, but don't be too reckless when you're applying. All right, Tom, what's happening? Somebody wanted to give a shout out to somebody. I don't know, Tom. You're gonna get to understand Guyanese more, man. Somebody sent this and say a shout out to Sally Penta. Right. some guy that does some program in a car in some truck. Sally Penta. Guyanese or something else. Anyway, Sally Penta. Tom, good night. Tom, what's happening? Did you see the President of the United States address Congress? Were you tuned in or you were caught up? And if so, how was it?
I did not tune in, but I looked at the coverage afterwards, and it seemed to be the same old that we've been hearing now going back, I don't know how many years now. I mean, it's been the same message. The main thing I saw was everyone got mad over the kid who had got the award because he just fought brain cancer, and the people over at MSNBC were angry about it, that Trump was trying to use the suffering of a child to make himself good, supposedly. And now the president's people are like, oh, how dare you guys make this political? But it was. But anyway, so it was a big waste of time, if you ask me. But I think that's where we're at now. We're at a phase now where everything this administration promised that they were going to do, as soon as they came through, they did a lot of it, like with the executive orders, but none of it has actually improved our situation in any way. So inflation has risen, right? On top of that, we're in a recession. A lot of people are being fired who don't deserve to be fired. They're being fired by a guy who makes $5 million a day from the U.S. government. So it's just, and then he's the one who's telling everyone who's allowed to work and who isn't allowed to work in every single role within the government. So he decides if you should be a scientist predicting tornadoes in the Midwest, because he knows the best. He knows better than anybody about the science of tornadoes. But then he turns around and he wants to fire people who clean up trash on the side of the highway in Idaho, because he knows better than everybody on how to clean up trash. And so it's just on and on. It's ridiculous. And so because that's happened, everyone's looking around like, well, that's what we voted for? What's going on? Right? And so people are not seeing the real world effects, not the way they want to see them. And this administration has nothing left to say because they've said everything they can say. And so we're sort of stuck now in this spot where things aren't getting better. The administration won't change course, and no one in the American government or the American people can say or do anything because there's a billionaire guy running around running everything regardless of what anyone else says. So that's where we're at, Mark.
Yep, that's where one of the good things, though, recently the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the NGOs through the USA, they should be paid the billions of dollars. A 5-4 decision. Any surprise here?
Because they have ways of making sure that money doesn't go to where it's supposed to go. Okay. Even though the Supreme Court said they have to pay it, now what they're going to do is they're going to pay it to some entity that probably doesn't even exist out to wherever it is, and get redirect the money somewhere else, like to give the Chinese so they can help lower their debt.
But the fact that the Supreme Court made that ruling, though, was it
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because we're in a place now where this administration doesn't care what the Supreme Court says. They're always going to find a way to get around any kind of ruling. And if you don't like it, you can take them to court, and they'll fight you in court for another 2 or 3 years. And then if the Supreme Court comes out with something again, they'll avoid that too. And if you don't like it, you can sue them and go the next 3 years. And this keeps on and on and on. It doesn't matter what anybody does. We're in a cycle now where everyone's stuck because one billionaire is trying to run everything. And that's just the bottom line.
Everything is just for a moment, indeed. What's happening in Venezuela after that so-called show by Maduro? Things seem to have died down a little bit. What's going on? What have you picked up in that neck of the wood?
I haven't even looked at that much. I've thought about it more, and I said, I think Maduro is trying to make it clear that he's going to start causing war all over the region if he doesn't get his way with Guyana oil. And so he may not want everything. If he could get everything, he would. But I think he's trying a hard bargain now. He's got no time to waste because the Trump administration canceled out the Chevron deal. So that's a huge amount of money he's not getting anymore. And so he's in a tough spot. So I think this guy might try something. I really do. I really do.
Could be a lot of behind the scene negotiations, arm risk wrestling with the arms and wrestling with each other and so forth. You never know what's happening. Well, today, for some of you, if you heard that Bharat Jagdeo continue with his silly lies about rigged elections by the PNCR, the coalition, um, and there's no evidence. And for a while, he hasn't been showing evidence. And as we continue to say right here on 107.1 FM, all the evidence point in the direction of the PVP rigging the elections. They rigged the 2006 elections. They rigged the 2001 elections. They rigged the 2011 elections, and they attempted to rig the 2015 elections. They got caught. That's a fact. In 2006, they stole a seat from the AFC, a Region 10 seat that Sam Hines sat in that seat for 5 years. The point that I'm making, and I want young people to know this and to hear this, that the only party in the history of Guyana that has been caught rigging elections is the PPPC. In 2020, they rigged the elections with the help of some foreign agents, and so the elections were rigged. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Hands down, the coalition won the elections, but because there was this regime change situation, the coalition couldn't do anything else. And so it bothers me that Jagdeo still continues to spread this lie about coalition rigging the elections, even without any evidence. What was kind of comical is Bharat Jagdeo said that they are young PPP supporters, young PPP members who are walking around the country with pellets in their backs, all because they were fighting for elections, free and fair elections in 2020. Now, I want Bharat Jagdeo, I want him to show the evidence of young PPP supporters, young PPP members who have gotten pellet bullets. If he shows me one person, one member of the PPP with that, I will show him over 500 members of the PNC who are walking around with pellet bullets. A lot of those persons walking around with pellet bullets are females. Lots of them. Maybe some of them are in the audience as well. So Jagdeo needs to stop with his lies. But Tom, this guy continues with this rigged 2020 elections. Of course, he's satisfying his purpose, right, sir?
Well, I mean, this is the one thing I keep harping on whenever I come on is there isn't a system in place right now that the people can trust and believe in. No matter what the result is in the next election, people will question it. And the losing side is going to say that it was rigged, no matter what happens. So if the PNC wins this next election, I promise you, Jagdeo and the PPP are going to say the election was rigged. Okay. If the PPP win, the PNC is going to claim it was rigged. And so that's the problem right now, right? And that's one of the fundamental things that the people have to ask for and have to demand actually is an election system that people can trust and believe in so that there aren't problems when one side loses or the other when everyone's calling it rigged, right? Because ultimately with anyone saying that the elections were rigged either last time or the time before, all it does is feed more distrust into the next election, right? And so it's this endless spiral of distrust in the system, and no one's coming in to reconfigure the system in a way to allow people to see that, okay, you know what? This actually works for the people. For example, Everything right now, because of the political system, the structure itself, whatever party wins, that they control everything as a winner take all. Maybe the part of the government that oversees elections, maybe it shouldn't be a winner take all situation. Maybe that part of the government should be truly bipartisan, right? Maybe rules like that need to be put in place so that people can have more confidence in the results of the elections, especially the ones coming up. So that's sort of how I see that. And it's unfortunate that he's in a leadership role and he's talking about rigged elections from however long ago when there's an election coming up. That it really does a disservice to the nation. It makes Guyana look bad. And he really shouldn't be doing it if he wants the nation to improve and things to get better.
Tom, he doesn't want the nation to improve. He doesn't want things to get better. No matter what, it's just all about corruption. It's about giving out thousands of acres of lands to his friends and his cronies and his Jagabats associates. That's what it's about. And contracts, billions of dollars of contracts to friends and cronies and incompetent individuals. We heard one such case with a guy by the name of Krotok or Kritik or whatever, crazy individual, billions of dollars on contracts, no experience, no qualifications, no nothing. And that is how Guyana is being run under the corrupt PPP regime. Having said that, though, look at this here, and this is just an example as to how the PPP was able, with their friends from overseas, rig the 2020 elections. 61 dead voters, 4,864 absent voters, 150 stuffed ballot boxes, 47 ballot boxes without documents, 1,278 missing oaths of identity. And these are the things that the opposition needs to throw back in Jagdeo's face. Remind him, publish a full-page ad, do these sort of things. The members of parliament of the opposition needs to continuously remind Jagdeo, the PPP, and their supporters about how Jagdeo and Irfan and others, and some of them who are now fighting against Jagdeo, how they were able to assist in rigging the elections in 2020. Some donated vehicles, some had guns, some had security guys, all manner of things that were done to rig the 2020 general and regional elections. Having said that, Tom, as we move on.
Well, here's the thing, Mark. I think what you said is correct, but I think they need to say all of that to support a better infrastructure around the election system, right? Don't just say it to criticize the PPP and to say to them, look, you guys are bad, so you rig elections. Don't talk about us because you're really bad, and here's why you're bad. That's fine to say that, but you have to take it a step further and say, hey, because of all these things that happened the last election, we need a different system now, right? We need a system that prevents all of those things.
They don't want a different system. They want.
But that's why the people have to demand it. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Like, I know from your perspective, and I know from the people's perspective in Guyana, you can't demand anything. It's impossible. Yeah, I'm telling you, the people this is one of the things that people have to get in together on in large numbers and demand change on. If they don't, then it will not change. It's not enough for you to talk about it on your show. It's not enough for the opposition to talk bad about the election. You have to be able to mobilize the people in order for them to put the pressure needed on this administration to put in structural changes that give everyone the confidence that the next election will be valid no matter who wins. That's imperative.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. But under this current, I don't know what's happening there. GCOM is said to be corrupt. They don't want biometrics. They have a heavily bloated list with thousands upon thousands of people whose names should not be there, dead persons, all manner of things, and people are skeptical. Either side, people are skeptical, but more so those in the opposition, they have every right to be skeptical because it's a fraudulent system. They're not comfortable. They're not confident that it will deliver the sort of results that we're looking for, which is free, which is transparent, and a democratic process. We're not seeing that. And that is why they're asking for biometrics. But I agree with you, Tom. People have to come out in their numbers. We're not seeing that. All we're seeing maybe about 5-6 persons once every Tuesday out there, Rhonda Lane and just others. That's not
Well,
sufficient.
that's why Jack Deo and these guys in the PPP, that's why they're not going to do anything. And on top of that, that's why the opposition isn't going to do anything either. Okay? The look, what's happening in the nation now is that the people who run it, they in their minds think that they're doing the best job anyone can do. They don't think the people actually have any problems with them at all. They think that the people, that anyone who says anything negative, it's a very small minority of people, and that most of the population in Guyana are very happy with their leadership. Very, very happy. Okay. That's how they see it from their perspective. And so the only way to change that is if the people say, no, we're not happy. And here are the reasons why. And they have to do it in a way where these guys can understand it, where they can look at it with their own eyes and say, oh, you know what? People aren't happy. What do we do to make them happy now? That's what has to happen. If that doesn't happen, things will stay the same. And it doesn't really matter what approach the opposition takes, propaganda wise or communications wise. It doesn't matter. As long as the PPP feel like they're doing the best job the people could ever imagine, and that's what they think they're doing, until the people show them otherwise, they aren't going to change anything. And that's what I think is the real issue.
Absolutely. I see there, Ian Williams is saying, Mr. Anderson, that is what we are not getting, the cooperation to change the system. And that's what they need, the cooperation. They're just not getting the cooperation to change the system. Alethea Lane is saying that, hey, exactly, everybody have to come out, not just a few protesting. Look and see how many of our Indian Guyanese brothers and sisters go out and protest. When we go out, they're saying it's political. And people have a right to say these sort of things. I see there's an Andrea D says, I agree with Mr. Anderson. They had 4 years to start doing something. 4 years and nothing. Now they are acting in an elections year, months away from the elections, and people are definitely they're watching, they're observing, they know exactly what the PPP is up to. Uh, Good night to all of you who are now joining us. Again, welcome to Straight Up. It's the 6th day of March, and the time is already going for 2025. Tom Anderson is with us this evening. Right, and those of you who have already shared the link, thank you so much. And those of you who haven't shared the link, thank you still for watching. We appreciate it, whether you share it, whether you don't share it, and whether you come on or you just stay in your corner and you're peeping us. We know, and I know a couple of people who are peeping because they don't want to come in for us to see them. They're peeping. Tom, for some moment when I repeat myself, I feel as though I'm sounding like the guy in the Oval Office. They're peeping. We know they're peeping us. We know they're watching us. Tom, let's move on now to the situation now with the Mohammeds, a statement that was issued by the elder Mohammed, claiming to be a victim now and being persecuted. We'll just take the first 30 seconds of the video and then we go right into your comment on what's happening with the sanctions against these individuals.
Good afternoon, everyone. 9 months ago, myself, Nazar Mohammed, and my son Azruddin Mohammed, along with our two companies, have been sanctioned by OFAC. OFAC is an arm, the financial arm of the American government. And I have been very silent on this. To say that it hasn't affected us is an understatement. Indeed, it has affected us greatly because our entire business, actually come to a standstill. What I want to tell you, because I've seen, read, and heard from people, some very senior people within the political structure, who has been deliberately misrepresenting what this sanction is about. Ostracizing us. The sanction is about myself and my son and our companies cannot do business with American citizens and American companies. We have been in the oil and gas sector very early, and we have lots of clients from various American companies who had to leave after the sanction respectfully. We were providing great service for them, but they had to leave, which is understandable. But to say that anyone who associate themselves with the Mohammeds would be sanctioned is ludicrous. Nasruddin Mohammed, since after the sanction, people took tens of...
Tom, take it over, please. Talk to us. You heard more than a mouthful
Yeah.
there. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I've thought about it more since I watched the video, and I've seen the video 2 or 3 times now. And so to me, it looks like, this is a serious plead for help from the Mohammeds. They are looking to the PPP, who it sounds from his perspective like he feels like they owe the Mohammeds at least an open ear on this one issue, right? And so here's the issue. It's very complicated. When it comes to sanctions, U.S. sanctions, it's really simple, right? If we put you on sanctions, then you can't have access to any of our financial networks in the world. So anywhere where the U.S. is involved as like a major shareholder, and as far as power goes, anywhere in the world, you are going to be blocked. All right. And so that's what's happened to the Mohammeds. They got blocked because our Treasury Department and our, at the time, administration and several other, whenever we do sanctions, it's not just the president or one department here or there. It's actually several departments, the head. So the Secretary of State, right? The head of the Secretary for Homeland Security, the head of the Justice Department, the Attorney General, and the president. All of them have to concur for you to be able for you to get on sanctions. And so it's a high bar. So once you're on, what happens is you are blocked from anything United States, period. Okay. Now here's where Muhammad, I think, is having his issue. What he's saying is that, look, that's just America. If we're doing business in Guyana and nothing is touching the American system, then we should be able to do that, and we should be able to get our licenses from the government and everything else, right? That's what he's saying. Well, here's the issue. Everybody who does business with him in Guyana, they will not be sanctioned by the U.S. in Guyana. But what will happen is, if they're doing major business with someone else or with the government, then the United States government can say to those other entities that engage with them, we're sanctioning you too from entering the U.S. markets, the financial markets, right? And so that's the danger. As long as what he's doing and what they're doing stays encapsulated in Guyana and it never gets outside of Guyana, he's correct. They can do that business there. They are able to do that. It's only when they try to get outside of Guyana and do work with anything that's American related that the sanctions apply, right? So it's complicated. It's hard to get on as a sanction. It's even doubly harder to get off because you can't go to any court system or anything. And so, like I said, they've been really affected. And what's happened is when you look at the PPP, I think what Muhammad's asking for is for them, the high up people he's talking to really look at what they're saying, look at the businesses that he's trying to do, because he feels that they're doing something that's encapsulated only in Guyana. And that may be true, but here's the problem. If you look at what's happening, who's advising the people in the PPP at the top on such an issue like this? Mike Pompeo, right? So if there's an issue and it's America related and he's going to the PPP for assistance, then the guy he should probably be talking to is Mike Pompeo, because Mike Pompeo could say better than anybody else on this planet, right, how he should be able to do business here in Guyana, if he can or if he can't. And Pompeo is the perfect guy to give advice to the PPP on that. Now, if the PPP have already gone to Pompeo and what they're saying is, hey, man, no one can do business with the Mohammeds, well, then that was the answer they got, right? So I think that's what he needs to do, is he needs to figure out, well, what's Mike Pompeo saying on this? Because that's the guy who's going to know everything. And he's the guy who's got himself involved in that in Guyana's national politics. And this is a big deal, what's going on with the Mohammeds. It's a major deal. And it's something that a guy like Pompeo should probably have to talk about.
One of the things also came out of the OFAC report is that even those who do business, whether collect monetary stuff from the Mohammeds, will also be subjected to sanction and enforcement, other forms of enforcement. And that's kind of like very straightforward into saying whether they are American citizens or not. And doing business with the Mohammeds will cause them to be on the radar and possible sanctions and other forms of enforcement, not just the U.S. citizen, but anyone in Guyana as well. For example, if the government of Guyana does business with the Mohammeds, they can open themselves up for sanctions too.
That's
And
right.
I
From
think
the U.S.
OFAC
The
is
U.S. can
pretty
say,
clear.
hey, we know that you're doing that. This government entity is doing business, major amount of business with this entity that we have sanctioned. And because of that, we're going to sanction this government body as well now. That can happen. Yes, that is possible. And that's what
So,
I think the higher ups have told Muhammad is that that's the problem, bro. That if anyone does business with you and the US sees it, then they're going to sanction that entity that's doing business, whether it's in Guyana or not. As soon as they see any entity doing business with you, the government is going to come after it, is what they're saying. And that could be accurate. But like I say, a guy like Mike Pompeo would have the answers on that.
I'm pretty sure Mike has a lot of those answers indeed.
Right?
Let me ask you this. Focus has been on the Mohammeds, Azruddin Mohammed and the father, Nazar Mohammed. Of course, you're quite familiar with the individuals, the Mohammeds. But why is it Jagdeo, Irfan Ali, and the PPP, they're not focusing on someone else who was sanctioned along with the Mohammeds? As a result of the Mohammeds, you have a permanent secretary who is still being paid by taxpayers or with taxpayers' money by the PPP regime. Why not much is being focused on this government official and just seem to be focusing on the Mohammeds for now?
Yeah, they don't want her to talk, man. It's pretty simple, right? They don't want her talking. They don't want her telling everyone what's really happening within the government of Guyana. They don't. And so that's the issue with the Bahamas, right? They're upset because I know that what they're thinking is this is a rigged job against them, considering there's so much fraud going on in the government of Guyana. Like they're sitting there thinking, why, wait a minute, why are we getting picked on when all of you guys are 100 times more dirty? That's what they're thinking, right? And so they are sitting there and wondering, well, maybe what happened here is we were the honorable guys. We never went and snitched on anybody. And guess what happened? Everybody else snitched on us. Because that's what it looks like. It looks like what the PPP has done is to protect their corrupt network. They've scapegoated the Mohammeds and this woman, right? Because, and I'm not going to say that these guys that they're innocent. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that they had the PPP had to pick who they wanted to have to take a fall, so that these guys, the leaders, Ali and Jagdeo, won't take a fall. And it looks like those guys are the right guys, right? And so I think that's the internal fight now, is the Mohammeds are saying, hey man, like we're taking the brunt of all of this, but we're not the only ones involved in all of this. There's
I
a
think
bunch
I
of
heard
you guys.
I heard that one, especially pointing fingers at another questionable businessman who is said to be on the radar of U.S. Law enforcement agencies, mind you, has had his visas revoked and all manner of things. Mohammed, the elder Mohammed, is saying, wait a minute, what about this guy and his dealing with gold in Venezuela?
That's
You heard
right.
that part? And what's
That's
your take?
right. That's right. I look at it myself and I think he's correct on that. I'm like, wait a minute, there's some other people here, right? And why is it that only they got hit and not these other guys who we know? There are guys right now who are running around Guyana free, who have bank accounts in everywhere you can think of, and they actually organize death squads. Think about that for a second. How could you be someone who organized death squads in the country and you're running around now wealthy and you've got bank accounts everywhere, and then the Mohammeds are like, whoa, what's going on? How does this guy who did the death squads, why is he still running around free? What's up with that? So that's the problem.
The death squad story is alleged that all of them were involved in death squads and pooling up their money.
That's the problem. That's the problem.
what happened with this guy? It's kind of like snitching out now, right?
That's it. People are snitching, right? And that's
Oh,
what's
yeah.
happened. People are snitching. And it just so happens that the Mohammeds had a whole bunch of people snitching on them. Okay, and now they're wondering, why is it that it's only us? Well, a bunch of people snitched on you, man. That's what
And,
it is.
and
There's no other way
sometimes
to explain it.
And sometimes, Tom, people snitch on themselves and without knowing that they are snitching on themselves.
That's
And
right.
that's what happened with the Mohammeds. They snitched on themselves, and it was just a matter of time. And like you said, lots and lots of law enforcement agencies have done their investigations. And, Tom, you have been looking into Guyana for over 15 years. Um, I'm sure we're just going to stick on the sanction situation, at least for now. But at today's press conference, but before we go to Jack Day's so-called press conference today, according to reports, the GRA, which is the Guyana Revenue Authority, they are now saying to the Mohammeds, that they have to pay close to 479 million Guyana dollars on taxes for this Ferrari. I think you're aware of the Ferrari situation. It was held up in Miami for a while until it was eventually released. Now we're hearing, the news is not yet out there. Hopefully you guys will get this news by tomorrow. You know how they operate in Guyana. This news will be out there that $479 million that the Mohammeds now have to pay for something that they should have paid in the beginning anyway. Not just the Mohammeds, anyone who is importing stuff, they have to pay their taxes. And now suddenly the PVP saying, hey guys, you got to pay $479 million in taxes. Any surprise there again, Tom?
I mean, look, man, what's going down now is pretty obvious. Look, it's impossible. I know enough here from the American side to know that we don't have that deep of a reach into what's going on within the political structure within Guyana. We just don't have that kind of reach. And so when we go in and we sanction the Mohammeds, right, that was done in cahoots with the PPP, period, end of story. And so what's happening now is the PPP, they're trying to finish off the job of whatever they started. Okay. And this is, and there's no other way around it, because there's no other way our government moves the way it moves unless another government gave us the information we needed to move like this. It's the only way it happens, right? So whatever's going on with the Mohammeds, they need to look at Georgetown. They need to look at Jack Dale. They need to look at Irfan Ali and the other members of the PPP, because this is a party effort, pretty obvious. And they are doing this because they have to. And why do they have to do it? Because they're working with our government. And if our government's going to be working with the Guyanese government, with the people of Guyana, then we want to make sure that the people who we do business with and the people that our companies interact with aren't getting involved in stuff that would make us look really bad and would create more havoc and problems within the region. And so basically, the best way to put it is the PPP pointed to the Mohammeds as the source within the country that's the most destabilizing force, and that force has to be dealt with if we're going to have a stable area for the U.S. government to expose our companies to. That's what that is. And so that's what's going on. And they're going to continue to do this until the Mohammeds are in a position where they can no longer influence the region the way that they probably were able to influence before the sanctions.
Makes me just want to end the program right here, right now. Good night to all of you. And what the Mohammeds need to do, in just my opinion, if the PVP has thrown them under the bus, they have to throw the PVP under the bus now, because they have lots of things on the PVP. But it appears that they have gotten word from, maybe like you have hinted at, the U.S. with regards to wanting to go after the Mohammeds. Would you be surprised, though, Tom, if indictments, I'm told that they are indictments, but if extradition warrants are sent to Guyana for the Mohammeds, would you be surprised
So
at
that
this
so the
moment?
situation that they're in is a precarious one, right? Because what's happened now is everything they try to do is being watched, not just by us, but by the Canadians, by the Brits, by the Chinese, by the Russians, by the Cubans, by the Venezuelans. Everybody is watching the Mohammeds now. Why? Because, like I said before, Guyana is now on the world stage. Okay, the nations on the world stage where the Turks, many governments have interests now in Guyana. Okay, and these sanctions on the Mohammeds is really the first sort of Western world action within the country to try to bring Guyana into the future and try to bring the economy and the political structure up to the level for them to be able to, for you guys to be able to operate on the world stage. Okay. And so everyone's watching how this goes and they're watching the Mohammeds closely. There's a microscope on them. And so here's what will happen. If the Mohammeds try to push back on this by hurting people they think are their enemies, by trying to silence people, by trying to intimidate people, anyone they try to raise, even anyone they harm one hair on their head on, no matter where they are in the world, there will be an agency watching and they will use that as an excuse to drop indictments on them, to ask for them to be extradited. So that's the position that they're in, where they really can't do anything to try to harm anybody, because if they take 1 inch towards someone as a threat, that's going to be used by our government for extraditions, for going after them even heavier, right? So, so what they have to do, no matter what it is they have to work through this politically, all right? They have to be smart about it if they want to survive as a family and as a corporation, as a business, the way that they were before the sanctions. If they want to get back to that level, then they have to be able to raise themselves above the muck, not do the stuff that gangsters and thugs and cartels do, which is try to murder people or hurt people or threaten people. No, they actually have to take what they have and use it in a smart way politically in order to be able to talk to the right people to unlock this puzzle that's locked them in. Okay. And that's what it takes to be on the world level. This is no longer swamp time. This is no longer backwater bush politics time. What this is for the Mohammeds is they have to step up to the plate and they have to behave as if they're an organization or a corporation, a major corporation in the Western world. And when that happens, that any company on our side of the thing gets into trouble with sanctions, guess what they do? They use lobbyists, they use attorneys, they do everything in their power to show that they are legit. And if they have to work with government agencies to expose who the real bad characters are, that's what they do through their lawyers and everything else. That's how a real world system works. And that's how they're going to have to work this. If they can't work it that way and they try to do gangland, death squad, let's go attack this person over here because they talk too much on their radio show or their TV show, their YouTube channel. They're always talking so much. Let's go hurt them, right? If they do that, they are going to be demolished. All right. So this is a true test. This is one of the first true tests on the international stage as to how business will go on Guyana going forward. Everybody's watching it, and I'm interested to see how the Mohammeds handle it.
Everybody's watching indeed. It is not as though they haven't tried in terms of handling it through a former FBI, senior FBI guy who said, oh, there's nothing on them. Oh, they're clean. And then a couple months afterwards, the OFAC and the sanctions and the agencies, law enforcement agencies saying lots of things. And we saw the Reuters report, and all of you who saw the Reuters report says U.S. probing Exxon contractor, that's the Mohammeds in Guyana, for smuggling drugs, gold, terrorism, assassination, and lots of serious, very serious things that just wouldn't fade away just like that. But let's go to I don't know if I want to call it a press conference by Bharat Jagdeo, who seems to have a mouth now to talk a lot, and who seems to have a lot on the Mohammeds, and I suspect the Mohammeds have a lot on Jagdeo. and if they wish to share all of they had an opportunity with probably to share it with the feds. I'm not sure if it's probably too late for that, but if they want to expose Jack Day and the PPP, they should be leaking, they should be giving evidence, real evidence of what they have done. Especially, I'm interested though, and if the Mohammeds there watching, I'm sure they're peeping, I'm interested in the role that they played during the 2020 elections, and I want them to talk about how the 2020 elections were rigged and what role they played, because a very senior functionary at GCOM has accused, maybe hinted that one of the Mohammeds wanted to assassinate her, and that's the chairwoman of GCOM is of that view, mind you. But we'll talk about that some other time. But let's go to Jack Deo, what he said, which didn't really amount to much, but take a listen to this, Mr. Anderson.
So I have met Azruddin Mohammed on a few occasions.
Okay, so he has just admitted he has met, and we all know that. We all knew that. So he doesn't have to admit that now. We all knew that, but let's continue to hear.
So I have met Azruddin Mohammed on a few occasions. And I think he is a wannabe gangster who can string two coherent thoughts together. And if he had to confront APNU, he would shit a bucket load. That's my characterization, and I will say that publicly.
A wannabe gangster. There are lots of wannabe gangsters. Jack Deo is said to be a wannabe gangster as well. And all of these wannabe gangsters were all eating around the gangster table. What is your take, please, Mr. Anderson, on what you just heard there?
I'm a little surprised, man. I mean, that sounds like Jack Deo is on the offensive. That sounds like Jack Dale is one of the guys behind these guys being sanctioned. I mean, whoa. So yeah, man. I mean, so obviously Jack Dale is the guy. He's a big part of why these guys are sanctioned. Obviously, after that comment, you could see that he's the one who's made sure that Mae Thomas continues to get paid, so that she doesn't talk to anybody about anything. And obviously, he's the guy who's in control of what's going on in the nation right now, obviously. So with all that said, right, what the Mohammeds have to do after I just saw that, what they have to do if they don't want to continue to be characterized as wannabe gangsters, right, they need to get some lawyers, some consultants. They need to get people working for them that can finally, first and last, basically open up the books, let everybody know what's really happening in the nation, let everybody know how rigged it really is, because they know better than anyone. But they have to do it in a professional way, and they have to hire some professionals on this and allow those people to talk. Doing their own press conferences is not going to work. Okay, they're going to need some attorneys. They're going to need some really good attorneys, man. And so, you know, I'm pretty sure I've seen people who have been sanctioned hire attorneys, United States law firms. I've seen it. Like you can actually do that. So they need to be able, so even though you're sanctioned, you can still get attorneys to help you deal with those sanctions. They need to do that. And they need to get some American people, because they're in for a real fight here. And listen to that comment from Jack Dale. If they go any other route than getting a really good American law firm to deal with this, they're going to have problems.
It's not that they haven't done that. They have done so in Washington and other places. Seem to be running into a brick wall for everything. Left just one option, was to just hit the streets and hug people. I mean, that's the only option right now. But Mr. Anderson, I know that there have been lots of talks and lots of begging behind the scenes and so forth. You did say that the elder Mohammed seemed to have been trying to beg to reach out to the PPP so that this matter can be settled. I do think, though, that at some point in time, maybe it's gone too far to be settled amongst them, because what Jack Day wants is for the Mohammeds to be no more. And I wouldn't be surprised if the extradition warrants are sent to Guyana and they're signed for the Mohammeds to be arrested and sent to jail in the United States of America. What else is happening as you look into this situation, sir?
Well, I mean, clearly there are big things happening. There's an election coming up. For this to be all happening, leading into the elections, what it says is that, hey, look, there is an opportunity here for the people's voice to be heard on this issue as well, right? I think I saw Azraddin Mohammed say that some things happened in the public in Guyana show that they were kind of on the Mohammed side. Well, I don't know. I think that a lot of that is the people of Guyana aren't the type to be going out there saying a bunch of stuff publicly, it seems, out loud in the streets. And on top of that, I don't know, there's some intimidation factor there. I don't know how many people are really going to be going out there trying to badmouth the Mohammeds. I just don't see it happening. And so with that in mind, from his perspective, everybody likes us. Well, no one's really going to say anything bad about you to your face, bro. Like, that's not going to happen because most people are kind of scared. And so with that in mind, right, this is another place where the voice of the people of the nation, the people can once again speak on issues like this, because at the end of the day, what's happening to the Mohammeds is more a symptom of the system of Guyana than it is about the Mohammeds themselves. Because in order for you to be able to thrive in Guyana, to have a big business presence, you're going to have to pay off people. You're going to have to do things that are very, very corrupt, because the system is designed for that. You can't move up through the society of Guyana being honest. You have to be corrupt, basically. And so that's where the people have to step in to end that practice in the nation. And guys like Jack Deo, look, from the American perspective, he's a good-looking guy right now because he went after the Mohammeds. And not very many people would have the guts to go after the Mohammeds. Okay, fine. So the U.S. government's probably very happy with that. But that's just for now, because the Mohammeds are not the ultimate problem in the nation. They're not. Okay, there are bigger problems in Guyana, and those problems sooner or later are going to come to the surface. And it seems like it's more sooner rather than later, which is good for the people of Guyana, but they can make it quicker if they get out there and they start putting pressure on these guys to make the changes faster. And unlike you, Mark, I do believe that the PPP can change. The reason why I say this is because if they don't change, it doesn't matter what happens going forward. The country will be brought down. Okay. The country needs multiple political systems, parties, to be on the up and up and be on a level where the nation can be represented properly, both domestically and internationally. And the PPP have to change to get to that point, but it's going to have to take pressure from the people to make it happen.
Pressure from the people to make it happen, indeed. And what the Mohammeds should do, because everything seemed to be turning against them. And so as they know everything is turning against them, they decided to hit the streets, make it appear that they love the people now. And people are smart enough. People are not going to come out and say much. People, some of them are intimidated. What they want to say publicly, they wouldn't. They would say it privately. They'll keep in mind a lot of things that have happened and serious allegations leveled against the Mohammed. U.S. law enforcement agencies have investigated. They are alleging assassinations. They're alleging murders, drug dealing, gold smuggling, terrorism. Those are very, very serious allegations. Tom, you have followed terrorists around the world. You did a lot of whatever you did in exposing that as well. And those are serious charges, serious allegations by U.S. law enforcement agencies against anyone. And that's what the Mohammeds are faced with at this point in time. Now,
yeah,
I'm not sure how they're going to wiggle out of that. But your closing remarks, please, Mr. Anderson.
I mean, these are the growing pains of an emerging country. You've got outside threats like Maduro, right? You've got internal problems dealing with sanctions. You've got internal problems with corruption. And it's all happening at a breakneck pace because the world period, needs Guyana to lift up their game and to step up their game and then switch from a nation sort of on the backbench to a more premier position within the region. And so we're seeing the growing pains of that now. That's why I love coming on the show, because I think we need more people speaking to the transformation that's happening in the moment, and to explain to people what's happening and what they can do to bring their voice to bear in order to help change the nation as it evolves to something more equitable for the people living there in Guyana. Because the biggest shame is that the biggest potential of shame could be that, hey, you guys falter politically and you end up in a situation where a lot of your wealth is stolen from you and your political system does not represent you. It's basically broken, and the nation becomes more and more impoverished as time goes on, even though more and more resources are being taken from it. That could happen. In order to avoid that, the people in the nation have to stand together. They have to demand better, higher standards, and they have to demand that as the nation is growing and changing right now, that it change to a more equitable government system, a more equitable political system, a more equitable commercial and private sector system. And the only way that can happen is that the people speak, because no one from the outside can do that. I can make recommendations, but the people from inside, you guys have to decide what you want for yourselves, organize and demand it from your representatives.
Thank you so much, Tom. Organize and demand it from your representatives. And when you demand action from your representatives, I hope that the representatives are not going to get annoyed and feel that somebody is getting personal with them or somebody hate them. That seems to be the going thing now in Guyana. You can't objectively say something about somebody. It's always some hate. Somebody hated somebody. I don't know what's happening in that country, but it's not going to get better under the PPP regime. In fact, in the next 6 months, it's going to get worse. I wouldn't be surprised if the killings restart in Guyana, where they turn the guns on each other. I'm not saying that should be the case, but based on past experiences and how the PPP operates, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I hope it doesn't, mind you. And so we may see these warring factors just go after each other because nobody wants anybody to snitch on them. The Mohammeds seem to know a lot about what transpired with the Venezuelan gold and who is selling gold with army uniforms. But what the Mohammed should have mentioned also is what happened to that gold heist in, what's that country name again, Tom?
Curacao?
Curacao, indeed. Tom, thank you so much for your time, though. Hope to see you back soon. Hope all is well with you and your family, though. God
Thank
bless.
you. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Thanks again. Have a good night, everyone. Hazel, I noticed you earlier. Hope if you're still on, good to see you. Have a good night, everybody. Take care.
Is Hazel the one that said Tom for president?
No, but she said hi to me specifically early on, so I didn't get a chance to say hi back, but definitely I noticed that she said hi. I wanted to say hi back before.
All of them are saying hi to you. Tom for president of Guyana. Tom for president. Thank you, Tom.
Take care, guys. All right.
Yeah. All right, Tom Anderson there for you guys as always. Taking time out of his busy schedule to be with us. And you guys should go and check out Tom's blog. He's always there. He's writing something about Guyana. He's writing something about U.S. politics. And you just got to go and support the brother and read what he has to say. And not only read, too, you could also share whatever he has on his platform. I notice Piri, is it Piri? We're in the middle of talking about what we're talking, the subject matter. And this person, Piri, just constantly talk about Vic Bharat. What about Vic Bharat? If I don't talk about something, it means I don't have the information as yet. And therefore, we stuck to what the subject matter is tonight. And you keep saying, talk about Vic Bharat. Talk about Vic Bharat. Oh, man, Piri. Like we'd say, get manners, man. I mean, we got to stay focused. Oh, come on. Oh, my gosh. Talk about Vic Bharat. But let me hear you. You're telling me talk about Vic Bharat. Talk what about Vic Bharat? Tell me. Put it in the comment section so I could know exactly what you're talking about. You're saying now you heard he got fired or resigned. Is it anywhere else in the news that you heard? Is Gordon Mosley saying it? Is the Guyana what is it? The Guyana Village Voice, are they saying it? Or you just want me to talk, interrupt me while we're talking, Tom and I, to talk about Vic Barrett get fired? I don't know if Vic Barrett got fired. Is it anywhere? Is it anywhere in the news? If he got fired, he got fired. Legal long way. You know, all of them should be fired. But I know come elections time, piri, if you go out and vote, I don't know if you're in Guyana, how you vote, but all of them should be fired next elections, including Barrett Jack Dale. He should be fired. And not only all of them should be fired, most of them should be in jail for corruption, all manner of things. Most of them should be sanctioned too. And so with what's happening with the Mohammeds, it's not like the Mohammeds, are basically angels. But Jack Dave is not an angel. Jack Dave is not an angel. Irfan Ali is not an angel. They're not angels at all. And so they need to be fired as well. They should have been sanctioned as well. But what the Mohammeds should do is the Mohammeds should talk. Talk, Mohammeds, talk. Reveal what y'all got to reveal. Give evidence, concrete evidence. If y'all have tapes, audio tapes of corrupt PPP officials taking bribes, talk. Don't just walk around and Barticus telling like that. Now y'all know all these things happening because y'all get around. These things have been happening for a long time. People get a small piece of house lot. Y'all get 80,000+ acres of house lot. Now y'all know that Guyanese have been somewhere. Look, putting that aside, talk. If y'all get evidence, if y'all get videos, videotape conversations, giving bribes to government officials, because that is what the U.S. law enforcement agencies are alleging. That y'all corrupt politicians, y'all bribe politicians, allegations of gold smuggling, money laundering, drug dealing, all manner of things. Those are heavy things. Those are heavy things. Piri, let's pay attention, man. Oh, it's like I'm losing patience with all these different. It's like whoever Piri is, whatever come across their mind, you just like look. What about this? What about that? Anyways, guys, I don't want to lose focus, but they gotta talk. Let them talk. I'm not just gonna run in and listen to just propaganda and this and that. Talk. Who gave Irfan Ali all those vehicles? Talk. The other thing I want the Mohammeds them to talk about is the elections, the 2020 elections. I suspect they are aware because they were right there up close with every single thing. As soon as Irfan was rushing to be sworn in, brand new vehicles, bulletproof vehicles, and all manner of things. And so, look, it's only now, though. It's only now that Jack Dave knows that the Mohammeds them have to pay taxes for duty, for vehicles, all those fancy vehicles. It's only now. Jack Dale, is it only now? That's the question. I don't know what's happening with you guys. It's only, and so these are questions all the time. Jack Dale, a wannabe gangster. They were in bed with the same wannabe gangster as he's describing Azruddin. All of them, one big happy family, eating from a karahi. What happened? Everybody falling out now? Somebody got to spill the beans. And so if the Mohammeds can spill the beans, send the evidence, concrete evidence, not just talk, or run and take a picture with some people in the streets to save you. What can save you is give evidence if you have evidence. You don't have to give it to me. Give it to the feds if they're interested in you guys right now, because maybe it's too late for that because they don't put the hammer down on you guys. Bam, indictments. But if you have the evidence, share it, man. I don't need to see the usual BS running around and suddenly all these problems y'all know about. Right? I try to be fair. They got a rattlesnake saying that I don't like this body and I don't like that body. What they call him again? Sally Pentatom. Y'all know who that is. Sit in a little truck and talk dotishness all day and night and call himself a influencer. Are you kidding me? Anyways, my name is Mark Benchap. It's been a lovely, Thursday evening with you. I appreciate all of you. I'll be back tomorrow, same place, same time, right here on 107.1 FM. But this is kind of comical, though. The part where Jack Dave said that lots of young PPP supporters are running around with pellet bullets in their backs. What's wrong with Jack Dave, man? Like, Jack Dave is the chief LB. We're not going to say LBB. He seems to be the chief LB because maybe that's exactly what he does to make himself hyped up at those so-called press conferences. Is he the chief LB? How many of you guys may, whatever LB means, I'm just saying LB. But he seems to be the chief LB. Worse than Sally Pentatong. So Jack Dave seems to be the chief LB, walking around the country, bare trash, bare nonsense. And I don't know what's happening, man. Guyana deserves better. I know you guys know Guyana deserves better than a Paku named Barra Jack Dave, a wannabe gangster named Barra Jack Dave, a criminal by the name of Barra Jack Dave. And so Barra Jack Dave, when he says that the Mohammeds, them or whoever they are wannabe gangsters, Jack Dave needs to be looking into the mirror. Pat telling Ketley Bottom Black or something like that. Birds of a feather, mind you. I want to fight each other. I want to lash each other, pick up each other, lash dunk each other. And I want whoever got to expose, let them expose. That's what I want. I need to see nobody brainwash anybody, pull up in Linden with a fancy car and people run around and hug you. I ain't buying that yet, man. If you got a battle, we got a battle. We want to see evidence. And if you got to lash back Jack Dave, now it's time to lash back Jack Dave. Simple as that. And when you're ready to lash back Jack Dave, when you're serious about lashing back Jack Dave, and I don't mean it that way, because Jack Dave would love that. LB. Anyways, I'm out of here. My name is Mark Benshop. But I kind of like this. This is funny. It should be in one of those comedy shows. This is what Jack Dave said earlier today at his so-called press conference.
So I have met Azruddin Mohammed on a few occasions.
Well, that is true because the permanent secretary apparently spilled the beans on a lot of things. Spilled the beans on who got access to a handheld phone that can zoom into the CCTV cameras around Georgetown. And that's dangerous when those sort of equipment, when they're in the hands of so-called business people. And then those so-called business people can ensure that crime scenes, the evidence from crime scenes are erased, whether it's a Palm Court, whether it's wherever, and all these sort of things. It's dangerous. And one of the good things that Mae Thomas Tucson did was to ensure that she probably talked to the feds. Probably. When they took her phone away, lots of things probably were found. Lots of things. And so the Mohammeds can run away and say that they're clean in that instance, that nobody for them, close to them, were sanctioned. Mae Thomas was close to them. She was sanctioned. Her visa revoked, and some family members of hers were being targeted, I'm told, by the feds. If her husband still goes to Guyana, I don't know whether he's still being questioned at the airport, according to a story. I don't know. But it is all as a result of the Mohammeds. All as a result of the Mohammeds. So the Mohammeds, they are in hot water. And how do you get out of hot water? Throw some hot water, not physical hot water, somewhat, in terms of information. Throw back the information that Jack did. Show back. Let the nation know. We don't want to hear no snitch about who smuggled gold from Venezuela. The feds already know that. They know that and more. It's just a matter of time. But I'm out of here. My name is Mark Benshop. God bless you all. We'll be back tomorrow, same place and same time. And then we'll check out to see who's hitting the streets tomorrow to kiss babies and hug people up, right? And zoom. I'm out of here. God bless you.
Sit there and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people. Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
So my relationship? Nothing. He is. So I have met Azruddin Mohammed on a few occasions. And I think he is a wannabe gangster who can't string two coherent thoughts together. So I have met Azruddin Mohammed on a few occasions. And I think he is a wannabe gangster who can't string two coherent thoughts together. And if he had to confront APNU, he would shit a bucket load.
And you're telling people progress. Cost of living gone up 100%, yet you give public servant less. Mr. President, listen to the people. Search your soul and you will confess. I want you try surviving on the public base, then you're gonna know but stress. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people fed up. They don't drive no fair with the citizen. They may want the people speak out. Freedom of speech done gone inside the gutter. Knock off when you open your mouth. Discrimination in entertainment. And you're talking about one Guyana. When the Ministry of Culture keep the big shows. One set of girls and banner. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup. Look how evil set up. The people fed up. Every picture you take and promise you make, everything you do is a
My name is Jacinti Caldata, Francis Vietnam, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my X next to the cup, and what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data.
Do a body man walk right now. You ready? Fuck, let me go now. Hear me sing now. Body walk, body walk, body walk. Everything body walk, truck, body walk, body walk, body walk. Everything body. Listen, body jump, body jump, body jump. Everything body jump, body jump, body jump, body jump. Everything. Hear me sing, so big body can't wear it tight pants. Big body jump.